One of the things that really put me off was the wall of text. Hey, welcome. So, today I'm going to talk about a novel that I recently read called Recursion by Blake Crouch, and this is the landing page. I'm Andy, I'm a non-fiction author, but I'm looking to get into fiction, particularly writing thriller. So this is part of my journey right now that I'm sharing. So at the moment I've read a couple of books. This is the second book actually, Recursion. The first book was Countdown by James Patterson and Brendan Dubois, and I'm just recording some of my observations, both as a writer, as a reader, and anything I observe from the book that I actually read, the physical copy. So in this case, I got a paperback version from the library, and I'm gonna shortly do a flip through of it. But before we do that, let's have a look at the landing page, which is obviously fantastic. 26,000 ratings. I'd love, even 10% of that would do very well for me, but I'm not quite there yet. Anyway, over here, they've got testimonials, effectively, from very famous names. New York Times, need one say more, really. The actual description is very, very short. It's reality is broken, blah, 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 all the way to together, Barry and Helena will have to confront their enemy before they and the world are trapped in a loop of ever-growing chaos. So that is literally the description. The rest of it, more praise and reviews. So if we just have a look from the publisher, this is where the A+ content will go. It's not too bad. It looks okay. I'll probably do something a little different from this. Who am I to argue someone with 26,000 reviews, hey? Editorial reviews. These are short 1.5, 2-liners from famous sources. It's also Amazon.com review, which you only get if you're featured, I believe, if you're featured in the some kind of best book that Amazon has, best book category that only Amazon can do. So this only pops up if you have that. So yes, just looking at this, an excerpt, and you can have a read. It's very, very long, and we're going to come a bit more detail into this, but you can just scroll through and you can see there's so much dialogue, and I don't know if that's going to be good or bad, so it depends on the reader you are. For me, just looking at this, it's probably not my go-to preference as a reader. As a writer, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go yet, but there's a huge amount of dialogue. There's also quite a lot of telling in this book. So let's dive right in. I've got quite a few points. Let's have a look. So as I flip through, I'm going to just make a few observations. So this is firstly a time travel kind of thriller book in my opinion. It's written as a third-person point of view throughout. There are two main characters, female scientist and male detective. There's significant character developments, which is great. I really like that. And the characters started off, both of them, with incredibly strong convictions and beliefs. But as time went on, you could see they kind of wavered a bit. And in the end, they actually surrendered. So that kind of highlights the humanity in the characters, which is actually quite good to see. Although, obviously, the final push, before the end, obviously everything works out. Okay, so it's kind of like a happily ever after of sorts. So that was good. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of dialogue, and I gotta say I lost track of who was saying what at times because there was just so much of it. I think it could have been dialed back a little bit. There's also a lot of description and kind of storytelling, and I felt there was, for me anyway, this is very subjective, but for me as a reader, I felt there was a bit too much description at times, and it slowed down the pace significantly, and I think that flow interruption didn't quite work for me. Now, the nature of the story is around memory and time travel, and I really liked how Crouch kind of weaved a bit of physics and neuroscience into the story. Obviously, I don't know if it's true or not, but an interesting fact I would like to say is that he actually credited, in the acknowledgements, he credited Clifford Johnson, who's a professor of physics and astronomy, as well as a couple of neuroscientists, Xu Liu and Steve Ramirez, on false memory, that they did some work on with, I can't remember, I think it might have been lab rats or mice or something. Anyway, it kind of makes me feel that as a writer, I need to be prepared to reach out to experts in their field to get feedback or information on certain parts of the story that I may tell. So that was interesting for me. Now, back to the actual book itself. I had the physical copy, the paperback. Some chapters were long. So for someone with a short attention span, and you can see it in other books where chapters are relatively short, so it kind of made me feel that it was difficult to reach the end of the chapter sometimes, and the pacing was a little drawn out, a little slow. And you can see the book was also split into 5 scenes. Scene 1 was 90 plus pages, scene 2 50 plus, scene 3 was 30 odd pages, scene 4 45 pages, and scene 5 80 plus pages. So you can see it was kind of drawn out in some parts, and much shorter in other parts. Now at some points as well, I felt like the book was a bit of drama in a way, more than a thriller. So as I'm learning more about writing craft, this felt a bit more telling than showing, in my opinion. So I may be completely off. Feel free to let me know in the comments, Now, one of the things that really put me off was the wall of text. That really kind of put me off, because you would flip through the pages, and then the next chapter or the next subsection or chapter would be like pages away, which is quite difficult to get through sometimes. So I feel like it could have been split up at certain parts in a more visually appealing, tastefully done manner, without removing anything from the story. I think that would have kept the pacing going a bit more. The plot twists were okay up until everything was revealed with the time travel memory kind of thing. Everything was fine up until that point, and then once that was kind of laid out, there was almost zero plot twist until the end, which was kind of disappointing in my view. I would have liked a bit more excitement. Now finally, the copyright page and the acknowledgements was rather odd. Now the copyright page has the standard, this is a work of fiction, but the acknowledgement section actually laid out who the characters were based on. So I know it's a work of fiction, but I've never seen an acknowledgement section that specifically said this person was modeled, or this person was kind of represented in a way in the book by the characters. So that was kind of odd to me. I don't think it's good or bad. It's just a little odd. So yes, those are my points that I observed. All in all, it's not a bad book if this is your kind of thing. There was a lot of dialogue, quite a lot of telling and description, but I can see why people love it. It's just I think the pacing could have been a bit better. Some of it with the presentation would have been nice to see, like a splitting up of subchapters to make it feel a bit more able to accomplish to the next chapter, as it were, instead of waiting like 10 pages or something before the next subchapter or chapter was in. Other books like Countdown, for example, those chapters were really short. Like a long chapter would have been 3 pages, whereas this one, it would have been many pages. So there's a distinct difference in writing styles for sure. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this book if you read it. And as always, if you have any book recommendations, let me know. Drop it in the comment section. And until next time, I shall see you later.